He laughed at her dream, but when the engines roared to life, she didn't just fly the plane, she flew straight into his heart and his regrets. Stay tuned till the end, because this one will leave you breathless. You're watching Black Inside 2.0. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more really emotional stories that touch the soul. The golden sun dipped low over the city skyline as the sound of roaring jets filled the air. At the private airfield of Henderson Aviation, employees hurried to prepare a sleek white jet for takeoff. Among them was Lena Carter, a quiet young woman in a simple cleaner's uniform, pushing her mop across the hangar floor. Lena's eyes, however, were not on the ground, they were on the sky. Every time a plane took off, her heart followed it. It wasn't just fascination, it was longing, a dream she had buried deep inside. Her father had once been a pilot for a small airline before he passed away in an accident. Lena had promised him she'd fly one day too, but life had other plans. Bills, responsibilities, and survival had clipped her wings before she could even start. That morning, Mr. Arthur Henderson, the silver-haired millionaire owner of the company, arrived at the airfield with his usual confidence. He was charming, powerful, and respected, but also proud, sometimes too proud to see people beyond their roles. He was there to meet his new co-pilot, but a scheduling mix-up delayed the flight. As he paced near the jet, he noticed Lena watching the aircraft from afar, eyes glowing with unspoken dreams. He smirked. "Do you like planes, miss?" he asked. "Carter, sir." "Lena Carter," she said softly. "Yes, I love them." He chuckled. "Love them, that's a strong word for someone who cleans them." Her cheeks flushed, but she stayed calm. "Maybe, but I know every part of this jet by heart. I've cleaned it for 2 years." Something in her confidence intrigued him. "Really? Then tell me, what's the fuel capacity of this model?" Without hesitation, she answered correctly. Then, one after another, she described the aircraft systems, emergency procedures, even the engine specs, all from memory. Arthur's eyebrows lifted, impressive, for a cleaner. Then, with a teasing smile, he added, "All right, Miss Carter, if you can fly this plane, I'll marry you." The nearby crew burst into quiet laughter. Lena just smiled, calm, certain. "Be careful what you promise, sir," she said softly. That night, while others went home, Lena stayed behind in the empty hangar. She cleaned the floor, then opened her old tablet, filled with flight manuals, simulator apps, and videos she had studied for years. Unknown to everyone, she had been taking online aviation lessons secretly, saving every dollar to someday enroll in flight school. Her hands moved across the tablet screen as she practiced flight simulations, whispering, "One day, Dad, one day I'll prove I belong here." She worked double shifts to afford more lessons. She watched planes take off, imagining herself in the cockpit. Days turned into nights, and dreams began to take shape. A week later, Arthur prepared for a demonstration flight in front of investors. But his co-pilot fell ill. The company scrambled, no one was available on short notice. As chaos spread, Lena approached Arthur. "Sir, I can help," she said. Arthur blinked. We're talking about $1 million jet, not a broom." She met his gaze steadily. "I can fly it, just let me prove it." The room went silent, the mechanics stared, even the investors seemed amused. Arthur sighed. "All right, Miss Carter, you want to prove something. Here's your chance. Fly us to Skyview Airport and back. If you can do it, I'll admit I was wrong." The sun painted the runway in shades of gold and fire. Lena walked toward the jet, no longer in her cleaner's uniform, but in a blue jumpsuit borrowed from a trainee pilot. Her hands trembled as she touched the controls, whispering a silent prayer. Arthur sat behind her, smirking. "Don't crash my jet, Miss Carter." Lena smiled faintly. "Hold on tight, sir." The engines roared to life. She guided the plane down the runway, checked every system, and with perfect precision, lifted the jet off the ground. Arthur's jaw dropped as the city skyline disappeared below them. Smooth, confident, graceful, she wasn't just flying, she was dancing with the sky. The mid-air twist. Halfway through the flight, the weather turned. A sudden storm rolled in, shaking the jet violently. Arthur gripped the seat, panic flashing in his eyes. "Turn back, it's too dangerous." But Lena's voice was calm. "No, sir, we can handle this." She switched to manual control, adjusted the flaps, and steered through the turbulence with skill that would impress even a veteran pilot. Arthur could barely breathe. He watched as this cleaner navigated the storm like she'd been born in the cockpit. Moments later, the clouds broke, and the golden sky returned. They landed safely to the cheers of the ground crew and investors. Arthur stepped out of the jet, stunned. The investors surrounded Lena, applauding her control and courage. He finally approached her. "Who are you, really?" he asked softly. Lena smiled. "Just a cleaner who refused to stop dreaming." Arthur shook his head in disbelief. "No, you're more than that." She handed him her old, worn-out flight manual. "My father used to say, dreams don't need wings, just courage." I believed him. Arthur looked down at the manual, then back at her, the cleaner he had mocked, who now stood taller than any pilot he'd ever met. A week later, Arthur called Lena to his office. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a full scholarship to pilot school, funded by Henderson Aviation. "I can't marry you," Arthur said, smiling humbly, "but I can give you what you deserve, your wings." Tears welled in Lena's eyes. "Thank you, sir." Arthur nodded. "No, thank you, for reminding me that dreams don't have ranks." Months later, the company celebrated the graduation of its new pilots. Lena walked across the runway in her crisp pilot's uniform, this time not as a cleaner but as Captain Lena Carter. Arthur watched proudly from afar, clapping as she saluted him before stepping into her jet. As the engines roared once more, she whispered, "For you, Dad, I made it." The plane soared into the horizon, golden light spilling across her path. Sometimes life puts us on the ground just to make our takeoff stronger. Never let anyone tell you that your dreams are too big for who you are. Because the sky doesn't care about titles, it only belongs to those who dare to fly. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button, share it with someone chasing their dream, and don't forget to subscribe to Black Inside 2.0, where every story reminds you that strength, faith, and hope can change everything.